I've got a story to tell you. It's all about spies. And if it's true, which I think it is, you boys are going to need a whole new organization. Right?
So instead, let's take this as a case study. The reality is that backdoors do exist. This is not just conspiracy theory stuff.
There's nowhere to go. I am reading the biggest trollop you've ever read in your life. This is a catastrophe. They're delaying. I'll tell you why they're delaying. Because the big boys are repositioning themselves. And when they're ready in their lifeboats,
God almighty,
as the Titanic sinks like this, and everyone's going, I think we can save the ship. No, you can't save the ship. Ship's gone. People say, what do you mean gone, Brendon? I mean gone. Bankrupt, gone. It's finished. They can't get out of this. It's the biggest disaster. And who did it? Intel Israel. This is Mark Ermolov. Obviously, he is Russian. I do believe he's Russian. He got in and found the microcode, and you can get into Intel's chip and do all sorts of nasty things to it, risking the integrity of any system, personal, private, corporate, whatever. And you can get in. That's the microcode he found, and we'll go into who first revealed a lot of this stuff. What they're finding is that Intel is riddled. AMD has similar problems. AMD has 4 to 6. Intel literally has 150. And we're going to talk about why. Why do they have so many problems? At Intel in particular, it's Israel. And why is the Intel 10 nanometer process such a disaster? I asked the question, do you seriously believe that a massive company, a corporate entity like Intel, the world leader in chip design, brings in its new 10 nanometer process, its monolithic die design, builds 20 billion in total R&D and infrastructure, and then says, sorry, it doesn't work. We can't get the yields. We can't build past 8 cores with any consistency. Imagine. Do you seriously think that's the excuse that is the excuse they're using? They had some problems. No. They so filled the 10 nanometer process with so many backdoors, and Intel got caught, and we'll go into the timeline for that. It's the biggest espionage case in history. It's huge, huge. So these programmable logic chips, industrial controller chips, do you remember God Mode Unlocked, Chris Domas of DARPA, where he said, with one 64-bit string of code, any product holding a VIA controller chip, industrial controller chip, which at that stage was based on the x86, so the same design, the same infrastructure as AMD and Intel chips. And it was a VIA industrial controller chip, but based on the x86 infrastructure. He didn't want to use an Intel or AMD chip because then he would give the game away.
So instead, let's take this as a case study. The reality is that backdoors do exist. This is not just conspiracy theory stuff, but they don't have to remain invisible. We do have the techniques necessary in order to find these. So sort of looking forward, even though this is not a common processor, I do think this is a big deal. This is not just a big deal for C3. This is not just a big deal for x86. I think this is a big problem for all of computer engineering in general, because this hardware that we're using to protect all of our secrets, to do all of our computation, we have no way to introspect it. So whether or not backdoors are real in a general sense is sort of irrelevant. That question is going to haunt us as long as we can't introspect our own hardware. So I hope that's what people will take out of this. I hope when you see something that seems off limits, when you see these weird hints in patents, because the patents that I saw were just the tip of the iceberg in some of this weird stuff that's out there, I hope people will dive in deep and really see what's under the hood, because that's how security works. That's how we build trust in these systems. So
Brendon O'Connell asked about an Intel backdoor. I would say Intel doesn't want a backdoor in their processors. And the fact that you have so many people working at Intel would suggest that they won't easily have one because someone would leak that. Intel can't keep... Here's what people need to understand about conspiracy theories. The more people you have as part of a conspiracy, the more it doesn't make sense if you think it was secret, right? Intel's a company of 120,000 people. So how are you keeping that secret, dude? They couldn't keep Meteor Lake secret. I leaked it 2 years ago. No, there's not some secret backdoor.
So instead, let's take this as a case study. The reality is that backdoors do exist. This is not just conspiracy theory stuff.
Intel, yes, Intel's finished. It is finished. Unless they bomb Taiwan Semiconductor, Intel Corporation is completely and utterly done. There is no coming back for Intel. They are 100% finished. I can't monitor comments, so talk amongst yourselves. If you didn't know, if you don't keep up, go and subscribe to Moore's Law is Dead, M-O-O-R-E-S. Moore's Law is Dead. He has one of the best sites on gossip on the latest. He's an electrical engineer by trade. And he has one of the best sites on the latest in CPU.
And that's something I think offline we spoke about this in preparing for this podcast, that I think you basically said like a decade ago, it was all Intel, everything pretty much, and when you say that, it's like, well, yeah, like servers, laptops, workstations, like workstation laptops, like desktops, like literally up and down the stack. And that once like Zen 2 rolled around, something happened where just all workstations were Threadripper or something, right? Like it just happened overnight. But still, because HP and Dell and like Lenovo were using Xeon for their servers, still most servers were Intel, right? And now that's even starting to shift.
Right. And so the shift in U.S. government acquisition is largely mirroring what's happening just in the general consumer market as well.
And I don't think anyone knows that. I'm so glad you came on to say that, because I think people just like think of like whatever the analogy would be to like the black helicopters magically being everywhere, and like somehow the U.S. government has these magic servers with Intel. It's like, no, they're buying from Lenovo, man.
And that's not to say that there might be some specific program that has very specific hardware needs, and they might be doing something.
Sure.
Custom contracts, doing things with certain manufacturers. But by and large, the bulk of computing need for the government is just the commodity stuff that you and I use every day. By and large, the bulk of computing need for the government is just the commodity stuff that you and I use every day.
Finally, even the big mainstream Linus Tech Talks, these 10 million subscribers are finally saying, they say, oh, really, Intel really messed up and Intel's really made a mistake, but they'll come back with new products. No, they can't come back. The i10 Ice Lake is a pure 100% designed in Israel, fabricated in Israel, not in Chile, all right, in New Mexico, Phoenix. All right, it's not fabricated or designed in the United States. It's fabricated and designed in Israel. Isn't that in keeping with everything else we've discussed in the last 3 years especially? It's a pure Israel affair. And it's a disaster. Now, some are going to say, well, it was a design problem from the beginning, which AMD has avoided. Do we believe that? While that probably is a factor, if you see the overall broad picture, you know what's going on. Telpiot, Unity 200, infiltration, the last 100 years of infiltration, when you put that in the broad picture, which was part 2, which isn't happening. I just have no desire. I have other things to do. That's why I like to do these live streams. I've got to get it out of the way. I'm just putting myself out there. I have to leave this country and I have to get past Malaysian immigration. I have to go and see the Royal Malaysian Police and say, I ain't paying a $6,000 fine. No offense. I think you owe me because you've given me nothing but stamped my tourist visa. So, my heart is in, through Kevin Barrett's inviting me to organise conferences to torpedo the petrodollar. And it's like, no. I won't be doing that because you ain't gonna torpedo the petrodollar. War before that ever happens, and maybe with this CPU fiasco you're going to get it. If you don't know, I am a tourist in this issue. I'm not an expert by any means, but I can bring I know a little about a lot, so I can bring a broad range of experiences, life experiences, and just my interest in technology since I got a VIC-20 and a Commodore 64 back in 1983. And spent 3 days, typing out basic code to make a little red ball flash across the screen and go, oh, look what I can do. I blame my mother because she said, you're just a toy, go and do your homework, the foolish bitch. Always blame the woman. Otherwise, I'd be making a fortune in IT. But anyway, such is life. Always blame your mother. These are the walkway they have, convention centre. It joins parts of the city up, air conditioned. They have them in Saudi and Dubai and the rest because it's so freaking humid. I pity anyone having to wear a suit in Malaysia. I'll probably keep this short. I'm going to go get some breakfast. I've lost my train of thought. I'm also giving up coffee, so my brain's half addled. Here's what they're not telling you. For those who've followed for a long time, you know that technology is everything and Israel leads it. Israel leads everything. Everyone thinks it's America. It's Israel. The companies are in Israel. They're run by dual national Israeli-American citizens. Just as an example, Akamai. We've done this before in my previous videos. If you're not familiar, please see my channel. You saw Daniel Lewin trained under, Jeremy Regan's, it's Meerkat, the counter-terrorist. No, it has to be Telpiot program because they do special forces training as well as computer science and all the rest. And Daniel Lewin goes from Denver, Colorado, and he basically designs the code with, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to distribute the load of the internet. And Daniel Lewin is also the first person to die on 9/11 in the aircraft. Work that one out. No one even talks about that stuff anymore. But when you understand, if you have designed the nodes and the server system and the algorithm to distribute the internet load, do you understand the power that gives you in terms of data collection? So once you start adding it all up, and everywhere you go, there's an Israeli. It's an Israeli dual national citizen, many of them from Russia and Ukraine, many of them with friends and family in the Russian military intelligence, GRU, FSB, and they're filling up the Intel factory in Karagot, Israel, the most advanced design and fabrication. What? What's that? I can't film.
Video shoot cannot hours. Only take a photo, but cannot video shoot hours.
Is it because I'm too good looking? Are you jealous? I'm going to head this way and film. No worries, bro. Yeah, it's just one of the poor, probably from Tibet, paid a pittance. They're nice. They're very nice, the security. I had no idea. They probably think they're going to get bombed by Israel or something, and they probably will be. But not to worry, because Israel will sell Malaysia their counter-terrorism technology that they're using on the Uyghurs in China. Just wait for that one. The entire Malaysian business and political class is completely compromised from one MDB, Chinese intelligence operative, Jolo. He's hiding out in Cyprus. Oh, fancy that. What's in Cyprus, everyone? The Israeli-Russian mob. There's so many stupid rules. You have no idea. They got literal terrorists running all over the place, flying to other places, but don't you dare film it here. Looks like I'm never meant to make it to KLCC. Where shall I have breakfast then? Lily Cafe? It's too expensive. I go to the cheap one. So anyway, Daniel Lewin, Akamai, everywhere you look is a dual national Israeli citizen. You know Unit 8200, you know the Talpiot program, you watch the videos. You know about the Belt and Road. You know Israel is leading the Belt and Road, working with Russia, China, and Iran on the Belt and Road. You know it's a fraud. You know they were trying to bring down the United States to get it on parity with the special crypto tokens they're working on, like a United States dollar tether, to tether all the currencies. And to do that, to tether all the currencies, you've got to bring down the US dollar. Why do you think Dr. Kevin Barrett was sitting here with me saying, Mahathir wants you to do a conference on he's meeting all the elite. You say, oh yeah, I've met all the top people here. I haven't met Mahathir yet, Kevin Barrett says, and we want to bring down the petrodollar. That is a declaration of war against the United States by Malaysia. I'm just sitting there going, wouldn't it just be better, Kevin, to expel the political Zionist movement and Israel out of the US political process? Oh yeah, we'll do it too. It's like, I let it go because I was desperate. Once I watched it in editing, I thought, I can't, this is ridiculous. He's meeting with Alexander Dugin, the Russian GRU briefer in Iran, for crying out loud. He'll go to jail. Why the hell isn't Kevin Barrett in jail? He's talking about avoiding sanctions. He's talking about avoiding sanctions and gold standard with Iran. It's like, what? Manafort did 10 times less. Me. It's ridiculous. A bunch of idiots. So anyway, we're talking about Intel and how Intel is finished. Let's just brush it up because I'm just not in the mood anymore. Malaysia. You know, I love it in so many ways and I just hate it in others. It's extremely racist. You got three tiers. Indians and Sri Lankans are on the bottom doing all the dirty work. The Chinese run the economy and the indigenous Malays are given preferential treatment for all the best jobs, so you end up with the biggest idiots at the top, which means the Malaysian economy is going to just suffer and die. There's no more Saudi money, there's no more Saudi oil money for Malaysia, so they're all panicking. They all can't get paid off anymore, it's so corrupt. And then Cynthia McKinney wonders why I don't want permanent residency. No, I wanted the Malaysian government to assist, as I did Iran, in exposing my case, which I thought, after all, they want to go after Israel, don't they? Don't they want to go after Israel? Don't they? Oh, no. No. Of course not. Of course they don't want to go after Israel, because they're all working with Israel. Israel, Russia, China, and Iran, the Belt and Road, expelling the United States out of Eurasia, the Makinda World Island. Even Steve Bannon talks about this, Makinda World Island, the Stalinist plan for the Pan-Eurasian superstate. The Pan-Eurasian superstate and the Stalin dream, which is the communist banker dream. Look up the Bunting Cloverleaf map if you don't know. The Bunting Cloverleaf map and Israel on China's New Silk Road. Now, as many of you know, how is this not everywhere? And I mean everywhere. But anyway, Intel, let me cut straight to the chase. We're not talking about high-end desktops for geeks and video renderers like me or gamers. We're not talking even about laptops where admittedly, you know, Intel's always ruled. Well, Intel's even ruled the desktop market, particularly on power consumption. AMD could never get the power consumption well. It was always 300 watts, some crazy 200, 300 watts power, while, you know, Microsoft's top end was like 180. Laptops, Intel rules laptops completely, but the big money, once you understand this, the really big money, and I'm walking in Pavilion, by the way, this is like for all the rich people in the shopping. I like to come in here to exercise every now and again, because it's just the interior, it's on both sides. It's early, it's 10 a.m. They don't open till 10, but they open till 10 p.m, which is great actually. It's great shopping hours. But it's the server market where Intel has always not just dominated, I mean ruled completely, 100% ruled, completely. No one came near them until 2018, when the researchers finally admitted there was a huge, gigantic problem with the hyper-threading and speculative units in the Intel CPUs, meaning they were structurally completely. Structurally, you could do all sorts of side channel attacks and memory attacks to get at passwords. And where do you think all this hacking's come from? How do you think China just hacks the network, apart from the fact Israel's probably given them all the hints and tips? But once that really came out in 2018, Brian Kaznick, the CEO of Intel, resigned. And the first person they told when they officially knew it was a big... they don't use the word problem, they use the word catastrophe. It's a catastrophe, particularly for the server market. Why? They all use Intel Xeon chips. They're all multi-cored and hyper-threaded, meaning if you're running a business, you have endpoint terminals, right? So you want these cores with like 64 cores, and they can divide with software. They can divide the core in half and have 128. It means you can run 128 terminals from one CPU with a central administrator.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Ni hao ma.
Ni hao.
Ni hao ma. Ni hao. Xie. I thought he was about to tell me not to film, and I was about to go. In Australian, French, fuck off. No, I would never be so rude. I try to be polite. Asians are very polite. It's something coming from redneck WA. It's like, fuck, they're so polite. It's freaking me out. The politeness. But it is nice to be polite. Which means I'll never fit in. Fucking hell, now I can't remember what I was saying. Yeah, Xeon, the Xeon server. So these multi-cores, multi-threaded, means you can run all these endpoints. Imagine all the banking databases. They're using Xeon processors. All these, the Pentagon, anywhere where there's a data center, a server, anywhere, it's a Xeon processor from Intel. And the whole time, for 10 freaking years, these things were wide open to attack. Wide open. And they said, you know what? You can't detect the attack. You can't detect it. And then they say at the end, oh, but we can't find any obvious examples of this being used in the wild. Oh, come on. Come on. What do you think's been happening in the last 10 years? And of course, then Intel says, or Israel says, oh, we designed this. We backdoored the crap out of it, made it a piece of garbage. And now you need us to stop all this cyber hacking. Oh my God. And we just happen to be the experts. Oh, what a coincidence. You can see how that little scam worked. So Israel's in there dominating these dual national citizens. They're dominating all these private subcontractors when they said, we don't want the NSA to be just a public accountable unit. We're accountable to Congress and, accountable to the public, paid for by the taxpayer. No, let's privatize it all. And we'll lose total control of our personnel. We'll lose total control of who's where, what and when. We'll lose total control of the subcontractors, so they can be subcontracting to the contractor, to another contractor, to another contractor. And by the time you get down to it, this supposedly secure CPU or this secure piece of tech has been sourced from freaking China. But it's coming from this high-end, US company with all the controls in place. It's a joke. Who decided to do that? Who actually signed the forms to do that? I want to know who that was. Was it Clapper? Was it what's his name? The other guy, I can't remember their names. I mean, who decided to? Remember, Bill Binney said they were going plenty of money for everyone after 9/11. Plenty of money for everyone. And there's Israel pre-positioned with all that tech. They were developing it all in Israel. Fuck, what a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare. How are they going to get out of this? How are they going to get out of it? They can't get out of it. So you've got, for the last 10 years, Intel processors, all of them, but especially the Xeon processors, particularly the data centers, the servers. These are the most important. That's where the big money is. The big money is in the server CPUs. That's where your dollars are. And it's also, of course, a huge national security issue. Your banking, finance, stock market, all the medical, hospitals, you name it. They can't fix it. I just read an article today, put out today, found more data leaks coming out. There's more of them, all based on the same foundational design problem. And guess where it's all designed? Have a guess. You know where it's all designed. So now AMD pops up. Yeah, the timing is perfect. As Intel goes down, and the very first people that Intel, when they finally said June, July, August 2017, yeah, we got a problem. When they finally realized by the end of 2017, this is a big problem, the first people they called, who were the first people, Brian Kajnik, who did they call? They didn't call the US government. They didn't tell the NSA there's a massive national security problem. They went straight to China and told the Chinese government. Isn't that funny? And you can read articles way back in 2005 where Intel is bragging of their wonderful relationships with China and how they're building all these centers of design excellence in China. And they actually, at the bottom, in the not too distant future, China will be competing. And they're stating by giving all this tech, this intellectual property to China, China will now compete with Intel and probably beat them. And they're bragging about it. Now, what does that say to a Intel investor? What does that say? You just destroyed my freaking investment. And you're talking openly about it. This is why I get so, what? It's madness. I beg you people to get this across. There needs to be real, proper research done. I'm not a researcher. I'm not into detail. I want to see the broad vision. And then I want to speculate on where it's going to go. Let me guess. Yeah, my little GoPro, it switches off. Just spontaneously switches off. I think it's linked in with the phone. I've never ever linked the wireless within the GoPro. I wish there's got to be a market for non-wireless devices like cameras and so on. There's got to be a market for it. These fucking things are infested with these fucking wireless technology. It's a nightmare. You're going to be able to just switch all your shit off just like that. Boom. And I notice it never does it when my phone's off. Look, someone wants to be on camera. We'll go and film him. He sees my impressive setups. He must be a professional vlogger. Oh yeah, very professional. Shall I go into Lily? It's too expensive. It is nice, but I've already had my burger for the week from Lily. So there's a short rundown. So now AMD, the EPYC range, Rome of multi-core, they're like 64 cores, 128 threads, are killing Intel. They kill Intel so badly. We're not talking like about 30% increase. We're talking about power consumption, we're talking about core count, and we're talking about security. And it kills it. There's high-end IT server people saying, we have no choice but to shift from Intel to AMD. This is unimaginable. We have to do it. We're getting these incredible power draws, which are so low because you're running these huge server farms. I mean, you know, you're gonna want to conserve electricity. You get, you know, $40,000 bills for electricity. But not only that, they're running 64 cores with 128 threads. Well, if you want a secure Xeon server chip, you know what you've got to do? You have to switch off hyperthreading. You lose half your cores straight off the bat. You can't. Imagine I make a car where to make sure the brakes work, you have to switch off half the horsepower. And I've got a race in that. And now Taiwan Semiconductor, which is intimately linked with China, who is also producing their own indigenous CPUs. China's producing their own, thanks to Intel. And Israel, they are now got 5 to 6 times the power in real world applications, 30% less cost and lower, 30 and 40%, and 30% plus less power usage. Do you understand what that means? This is not something Intel can come back from. It can't come back from this. Look, they're already saying the 10 nanometer process, they don't even know if they're ever going to release it. They say, oh, we think we can. You think? You're 3 years late. AMD is already pumping out these freaking awesome processors that are killing you on every level. Now AMD is competing heavily and thrashing Intel in laptops, desktops, high-end desktops, low-end desktops, and the server market. It's finished. Intel is finished. It's gone. It's $250 a share. It feels like the 2008 housing bubble. They're repositioning themselves, and you've got AMD at $50 a share. if you got any money, you know, go for AMD, because it's a sure bet, barring, of course, war and Hellfire missiles on Taiwan Semiconductor, or I don't know, a coronavirus. You know where that coronavirus is? Well, that's a main manufacturing place for technology, memory chips, all sorts of stuff. And they're already saying it's affecting the market. Ah, interesting. Maybe they'll get a coronavirus over Taiwan Semiconductor. So there you go. That's just my little quick rundown. It's a disaster. It's a catastrophe. The United States cannot allow a foreign country to rule the server market. Doesn't even want it to rule anything else. But the server market, that's a national security issue. It can't happen. The United States could go to war over this issue. Forget all the other issues. They could go to war over this issue. And you know who you can thank, America? You know who you can thank? You can thank your best friend and your greatest ally ever, Israel. Now, let's talk about the white nationalist movement. Considering these clowns are the sworn enemies of Israel, have you noted any of them doing any work? Have you noticed them doing rallies, holding banners? Besides going, the Jews will not replace us, like a bunch of raving idiot lunatics. If that doesn't tell you what the white nationalist movement is, if that doesn't tell you, like David Duke tweeting back to me in a private tweet, I hope you're wrong, Brendon, meaning David Duke knows exactly what I'm talking about. Where's this guy? Where is he? Where's David Duke? Hey, David, why aren't you doing a slick presentation, David Duke? You fraud. You're fed. You're fed. We all know you're fed. You're making movies about you. You're on the television all the time. Give me a break. Give me a break. Man, I look online and I see the most incredible information coming out of, like, Moore's Law is dead. Incredible info. And it's like, you know, it's got some reasonable views, 30,000, 50,000, sometimes 70,000. But considering the quality of the information that guy puts out, whew, maybe he needs a cat. He does have a cat. I've seen it right in the background. So maybe he needs to put the cat on the desk and maybe they'll get his views up. But Moore's Law is dead. There's a great interview. I'll try and put the links in and pin it. But that interview is just, the guy's going, look, it's over. If Intel can't come back from this, it's over. How's it going to come back? You're already 3 years late with your premier range. They can't offer anything because they don't have anything. They can't fix the flaws that are there already in the current range. Skylake, it's ruined. It's done. And then, you know, Intel goes, well, we'll do the 7 nanometer process in a couple of years. Sorry, but in a couple of years, AMD will be on the 3 nanometer process. It's gone. What's going to happen? You watch. The ramifications of this simple information are so big. And you look at the complete lack, there's just no analysis on this issue. They won't even say, by the way, we're at war with China, and guess what? Israel keeps helping them. They won't even mention it. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm peeved. I wanted to go for a nice long walk down to the Petronas Twin Towers. Doesn't matter. Let's go into this plush little shopping centre, see if we can get tossed out. Live on camera. Anyway, that's my little rant. I had a lot more to say, but I'm losing all enthusiasm and absolutely all interest for the subject. Remember, I was a bit like Adolf Hitler, no pun intended. It was meant to be a short war. It's like invading the Soviet Union. It was meant to be a short war. I just pop in. Iran's disaster. It was too weird. It just completely freaked me out. The closet homosexual lawyer rubbing my back. He's so stressed, Brendon. Oh, let me tell you the further story. John McAfee loves this story. John McAfee, crypto king. I used to talk to him all the time. I'm in the gym, right? I'm in a gym. Very, very swanky gym, private gym in Iran. I'll tell you, they treated me like a panda bear. And he kneels down in front of me at the weight stack. You're going to love this. You just crack up. And I have to do his face and his expression over it. He kneels down in front of me at waist level, gets the pin to the weight stack, and as he's inserting the pin, he goes, hey, Brendon, it must be good to be around a really masculine man like me. Now, I guess you're thinking I make that up. I'm just going, this is freaky. And he's going the next day, so I'm just smiling. I thank God he's gone. I'm going to kill him. This freak. He's off his head. He's off his head on drugs. I'm not talking a little bit chatty. I'm talking hardcore. If you've ever worked in nightclubs or pubs and you've seen someone completely off their dial. And the final straw was the heroin, when he went to South Tehran for the day and he came back and he was so wasted he couldn't stand up. He couldn't peel a carrot. He was giggling uncontrollably like a child, and I just went, that's fucking it. And that's when I blew up at him at passport. I was meant to get my 3-month visa extension, and I just blew up and said, you fucking cunt, I'm going to kill you. Give me my passport back. You're a bunch of incompetents. despise you, and I'm getting the fuck out of here. And I packed up and I went off to I'm just thinking about it. Why me? Why me? I'm in Iran. Where's the, I don't know, where's the conservative values? We're going to get down to business. I'm thinking, Ahmadinejad, we're going to get down to business. We're going to have a technology conference here in 5 minutes, and they don't even care about Israel. They hate Saudi and the Gulf states, because that's the job under Rouhani and Zarif, to move right into the Middle East, terrorize Saudi and GCC to have a peace deal with Israel. That's what they're there for. And Iran and Russia sitting there as well. That's all that it's about. Nothing more, nothing less. Anyway, part two, I might as well finish up with part two. What was going to be in that? I mean, I'm a third of the way through. I've done the script. I just lost all interest. That's all I can tell you. It's all been said, but one of the things I wanted to point out was the 3 points where they lost in many ways. Everyone keeps saying that they've got all this power, they're unstoppable. They were meant to have the European Union formed, right, in late 1930s, 1938, 39. That's when the European Union was meant to be formed. They still haven't formed it properly. Hitler was going to call it the United States of Europe, and Berlin was to be the capital. They were going to call it Germania or Germania. This is facts, by the way. It's not my opinion. This is in history books, personal accounts. It's mainstream. And so that's why Hitler was funded. Hitler worked for German military intelligence. He was a gopher, very brave man, World War I. Iron Cross twice, first class, regimental runner, one of the most dangerous jobs you can have. And he was funded by the same people that funded the Soviet Union as a bulwark against Stalin, because Stalin was doing his own thing. This is Rothschild's perpetual problem, the whole private intelligence, international predatory banking and financial class. Leon Trotsky or Bronstein was supposed to take over, and he wanted to immediately go into Europe. And Stalin said no. They had that tussle. He was ejected, and he ended up with an ice pick in his head in Mexico. And Stalin said, no, we're going to hold back, build up our infrastructure with the help of the US. I might help. They were running so much technology into the Soviet Union, and lays it out, lost connection. Stalin's folly. Constantine. It was a June 1942 invasion. That's why Hitler was running as fast as he can to get into Barbarossa. They weren't prepared. They didn't. Well, it wasn't just Hitler woke up in the morning with his jackboots and went, oh, my jackboots aren't shiny. I know, I'll start wars. Yay. I mean, you think about the lack of any credible whatsoever historical reference when the only thing they can tell you about Adolf Hitler is, number one, he rose to power. I don't mention who funded him. Look at all these mainstream documentaries. They are an utter joke. He rose to power. So he goes from a barroom brawler in Munich, locked up. Next minute, he's flying around in a Fokker triplane with a sports car, well-funded. Boy, what's going on there? So he was meant to be a bulwark for Stalin. He wasn't meant to invade. Goering was his handler. Goering was always saying, why must we risk everything? And Hitler was saying, I'm taking out the Bolsheviks, period. That's what I was put here to do. And what a shame. He could have gone in and not been a ruthless, murdering swine in more ways than you can imagine. You don't believe in Holocaust, fine, but man, the Einsatzgruppen and Sonderkommando were ruthlessly murdering men, women, and children wholesale. Don't give me this crap that Adolf Hitler was a saint. He was no saint. His entourage were pure, hardcore Greta Thunbergs. Hitler was a vegetarian who hated abuse of animals and was into the environment and wanted to ban smoking and wanted everyone healthy. Where do you think the Georgia Guidestones come from? That's his friends. Well, I agree with some of it, to be honest. Some of it. This is pretty simple stuff for Hitler. But you go and find a mainstream documentary explaining to you that Stalin was going to invade Western Europe. I read that in 2005 when it first came out. Konstantin Pleshikov's Stalin's Folly from the Moscow archives. It's not his opinion, it's from the Moscow archives. They had a June 1942 invasion, and you saw the famous thing where Hitler's on the train with the Finnish prime minister or president, and he's saying with a heavy heart, I invaded, I was so worried. He said they had 30,000 armoured vehicles on the border. We couldn't believe it, how many armoured vehicles there were. All their stuff was up. They were ready to invade. So Hitler bumped them. It was it was incredible effort by a German army that wasn't even ready for war. Absolutely incredible. And this is why a lot of people are worried about Germany. Their history's been suppressed. They're worried that Germans going to get very militant and militarized. And let's face it, man, if you understand World War II history, no one came close to Germany. They were just an incredible killing machine army, coordinated. Their tactics, their discipline, it was incredible. But of course, they didn't understand ultra intercepts, and of course, the British had managed to get hold of some code books through Wilhelm Canaris. running backwards and forwards to Switzerland. The Lucy spy ring, which was real. They say, oh, it was a cover for ultra intercepts. No. Enigma. They broke the code. No, they broke the code with the help of code books. That's why they could never break the German naval code, because Wilhelm Canaris couldn't get copies of the German naval code books. They got them eventually. They got some code books. And it's a pretty incredible story. So really that war was won entirely because of the ultra intercepts, and Stalin had the entire German order of battle, sometimes within 24 to 48 hours, so much so Stalin couldn't believe it. He believed Churchill was setting him up because Churchill hated him and he hated Churchill. And Churchill was right. I know a lot of you are watching David Irving, and Irving obviously is correct in many ways, but Churchill was damn right on communism, man. He wanted to keep marching. Churchill wanted to keep marching to Moscow. Good old Roosevelt. And then Truman. So that was their first setback, Adolf Hitler. They had to reorder. People say, no, that was not meant to happen. It was meant to be a standoff, Cold War. And while they both stood off, that would form the United States of Europe. And then you would have Stalin forming that Eurasian pact. And then you would have Mao. So you'd have three strongmen. You'd have Hitler, one strong man to deal with in Europe. You'd have Stalin, one strong man to deal with in Northern Asia. And then you would have Mao in Southern Asia, one man to deal with. And of course, the setting up of Israel, thanks to Hitler. He was meant to send all the Jews to Israel, and he wouldn't do it. That was one of the biggest upsets of all. So now you're getting it. Now you see that links in with the bunting cloverleaf map. Israel with Jerusalem as the capital of the world. David Ben-Gurion's words, not mine. Bible prophecy and all the rest. Now you see the data link points, which will cross over. The data for Europe, Asia, and Africa will cross over. They need the fiber optic data for the AI. That's why Israel has so much leverage. That's why I say just land 2 Marine divisions and annex the entire place. Put it under US control. The Arabs won't care. They just say, stop killing us and let us do business. And we're happy. And we'll sort of that later. That's all they have to do. Just let the US have control of the data. Unless you want Putin having control of the data, or Benjamin Netanyahu, or Xi Jinping, or any one of a number of thugs and brutal dictators. That's what they are. We know the US isn't perfect by a long shot, but let me tell you, the opportunities for freedom, if Americans in particular would like to use them, are there. But if you don't want to use those institutions, if you want to not build on those foundations, but bitch and whine on wherever you're whining, and not even pick up, you don't have to pick up the gun because you're either 300 pounds and eating Twinkies lying on a couch booing, or you're picking up a gun. There's no in between. You can't engage in the political process. That's where you win. As Yuri Bezmenov says, you're demoralized. They've told you, oh, there's no point engaging in the political process. Oh, there's no point doing it. There's just no point. So just lie on your bed and bitch online. I mean, does that make any sense to you? So Hitler was the first problem. Then you had Bobby Kennedy, John Kennedy, and Joe McCarthy, and good old J. Edgar Hoover, the dress wearer. I'd like to have a relook at J. Edgar Hoover. He did some brilliant work. He really exposed it more than McCarthy. He called McCarthy an opportunist. But publicly, at least, McCarthy was the face. I'm even seeing Diane West on a lot of these think tank groups now bringing up the rehabilitation of Joe McCarthy. Yeah, about time. Not perfect, but dear God, he was bang on. Absolutely bang on. Yeah, Alex Jones pushing absolute fear point. I mean, I started to watch it because I like to keep up what the idiot's doing, and I was like, oh, I can't even watch it. The water, he said, the water's all contaminated. And by the way, buy my water. Anyway, so the second thing was Bobby Kennedy, John Kennedy, and McCarthy. They were really digging into it. They knew exactly who they were after. And boom, that was the end of that. Then you had, of course, the third one was, and I agree with Christopher Bolin, a lot of his research, which he stole off Ryan Dawson mostly. But Bolin, I believe, is right, even though there's some things Bolin says which are just stupid. But anyway, that in 1988, they had 2 Israeli military intelligence officers were getting the World Trade Center security contract. And some very smart operator at the Port Authority, probably tipped off by US intelligence, said, wait a minute, those guys are up for war crimes because during one of the intifadas, Israeli troops radioed in, we've got some rock throwers. There were some rock throwers and some terrorists. There's someone had blown up someone on a bus, and we've got some of these terrorists. What do we do? And the guy said, break their skulls with rocks. So the Israeli soldiers threw rocks on their heads and cracked their skulls. So this guy was up for war crimes. He was using a false name. So someone from US intelligence, maybe even with Israeli, Israelis are not all evil. They've tipped someone off at the Port Authority, and the Port Authority stopped the 9/11 attack. And it took them 10 more years before they could get back in there. 9/11 was meant to happen in the late 80s, early 90s. Instead of that, they had that pathetic truck bomb attempt, which was pathetic, 1993, which was, you had the Egyptian intelligence officer saying, why are you giving me real explosives? That's all still online. The FBI handlers, to his FBI handlers, recorded. It was on the national news. Why are you giving me real explosives? This is supposed to be a setup to catch the terrorists. But if 9/11 had happened in 1989, 1990, 1991, with no internet to speak of like we have it now in 2001, no cameras, there weren't cameras around everywhere, they would have quickly completed the Ode du Non plan. They would have got Iran down, Libya down, Syria down. They would have got it all settled, all down way back then, but they couldn't pull it off. So they're not all powerful. So now we have this point of tension. It's like an earthquake. It's tense and you know it's coming. How bad it's going to be, we don't know. A lot of theories. If you're Alex Jones, it's the end of the world, buy my bone broth. If you're Jake Morphanius and Adam Green, it's the end of the world, buy my hats, my t-shirts and my coffee mugs. I mean, do you understand why I can't stand this garbage? I mean, it's absolutely sickening garbage. So there we have it. Those are their 3 setbacks, which was part of part 2 of the little mini documentary. And then I was going into what can we do? And you must watch all of Adam Curtis, all of Adam Curtis's stuff. Hypernormalization, especially Vladislav Surkov, how they were building, and I'm going to put up a video I put up before about the white nationalist movement, how they were building opposition parties all through Russia. This is the first place they really did it as an experiment. And this is linked in with NATO and the people who did the Brexit, Aggregate IT by Massingham, what's his name? Can't remember his name. Massingham, out of Canada. Aggregate IT, they were bigger than Cambridge Analytica. And they were working with NATO and CERN. The people out of CERN, the Hadron Collider, were working on the data. I wanted to tie all this in with CERN, that Switzerland, you know, I read in the what's his name? Edward Snowden's book. I didn't realize that Switzerland, Switzerland, center of everything, has all the fiber optic cables that cross over Europe because they want access to the data. Why? I said before, they're doing an algorithm, a very special algorithm, and they're doing a very special formula. And the Hadron Collider is based on being able to simulate the real world as if you are in the 3D universe. That's what they're working on. And that is why the data, especially in Israel, is so important. It's all about the AI. You get that AI and you can simulate the universe in real time. Do you understand, to invent some new weapon or some new cancer drug or whatever, you don't need to build $20 billion of infrastructure and train up your humans to do the research. No. You don't even need an industrial base per se at that development point. You just input the data into your terminal and boom, out it pops. The plans, what you can do, what you can't do, all your problems you have or won't have, and then you just go and build it. Do you realize the power that gives you? Incredible power. It's so incredible. It's incredible. That's why when you see Elon Musk, when you see him do talks and he starts flipping out and his head rolls back and his eyes and he goes, oh, it's worse than you know. It's not an act, man. It's frightening. But it's also so frightening you just can't help yourself. You've got to do it because the technological leaps are so great. The ability to pop matter out of the 0-point field, just pop it out of the air and assemble it in real time. They said they've proved it on the bench. It can be done. It's Star Trek stuff we're talking here. And they're talking very seriously about this. And this is why they're trying to get Asia first. Asia is the most important, to get all their people into the Smart Cities program. And we can see China doing its little test. It's a military exercise. How to shut down a city, how to get people, how to hurt them. This is history unfolding before your eyes. You're a part of it right now. And it's in front of us. We're informed. We know what's going on. We've got lots of data, but no one can seem to do anything about it. No one can lobby. We just have a bunch of retarded cunt idiots. I'm just going to swear, they're cunt idiots, and they're running around going, geez, will not replace us. You've got the leftist idiots are over there saving gay whales. Someone else is over here doing this because, as Vladislav Surkov says, we're going to control all of the opposition. But here was the thing which Adam Curtis points out was freaky. While they were controlling all these opposition parties to give the illusion that there was a vibrant democracy emerging in Russia, Surkov and Putin actually publicized that they were running it all. And you think, why the hell would you do that? Because they want to f with your head. They want to mess with your head.
so that you won't know what reality is, you won't know what to believe, real, fake, and you'll switch off. So it's too hard. I've got wives and kids. I've got kids to put in school. I can't deal with it. And that's the psychological warfare. And a lot of the people involved in this are working with NATO. They're working on third world, specifically third world election campaigns. They worked on Brexit. The same people worked on Brexit. Please watch the movie with Benedict Cumberbatch, Brexit, an Uncivil War. I could put the link. No, I won't put the link below to the full movie. But if you want the full movie, I'll send you the link. I don't think they'll even care. I never even got a copyright strike once using Brexit, so even though it's a recent movie. So that's what CERN's about, that's what Switzerland's about, and that's what Israel's about. And they're working with China, and they're sending all this tech into China, where they're building this new system in China, of all places. So you're starting to see the world is a business. The world is a business, Mr. Bill. You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. I love that scene. What a movie. You got to watch the whole movie. Joker's a little bit based on that as well. Well, I just want to wind it up. I hope you people, I've given you a few hints and tips. A lot of this is my own stuff, just putting it together. If you want to go and then do more thorough research on those issues, and you want to do more linking, but at the same time, we've got to start getting people out there on the street. A few people have said they've handed out a few flyers. I'll put the link to the flyers, I'll pin it to the top. I'm urging you, focus on if you're going to do one thing, focus on the military. If you want to mount a coup, and that's what we need to do, we need to mount a coup, a counter coup, you have got to get the military inside. Not even the police. Well, that helps, obviously. You've got to get the military inside. And you go to the average military person, they don't want to kill kids. They're not out to rule the world. They're fed this narrative, they're fed this info, and they want to protect their country from the terrorists and all the rest. Do you know how easy it is to make Israel the enemy now? The self-evident enemy? And I just want to see one photo of one person with a camera and a flyer handing out a flyer in front of Fort Bragg and the 5 million other freaking military sites all around the country. And you mean to say these bullshit white nationalists are running around with these giant orgies of meetings and flamed and trying to recreate Nuremberg rallies, going the Jews, but none of these organizers can do a single political thing that would actually change anything. None of them can do it. If that doesn't tell you that it's Vladislav Surkov, it's completely controlled opposition. I don't just mean influenced or handled. I mean controlled, invented, handled, paid for, the whole fucking thing. It's Vladislav Surkov, the Steve Bannon, Breitbart, Adam Green's, Red Ice Radio, the Culture War. Come on, they've done whole lectures on how the CIA was running movie studios. They were running book publishing, editors, newspaper editors, whole newspapers. And you think they forgot the alt media when it's such an influence now? Now you see why these clowns. I said over and over to the people, Joseph Davies, nephew of Fred Smith, of FedEx included, can we stop around with Ryan Dawson and Adam Green and the white nationalist movement? Will you please stop trying to shower me and my issue and my position in a foreign country with 3 warrants for my arrest in the white nationalist movement? Isn't that logical? Number one, I don't like them ideologically. Most of them are national socialists and would dispense with the US Constitution the moment they got power. That these same hypocrites, right, demand the protection of the US Constitution, which they just disgust me. They don't even make sense. Fuck off, go to Germany. Go to fucking Europe. Live in your national socialist paradise over there. There's something unique about America. We're not going to judge you on your skin tone. We're going to judge you on the content of your character and your love for freedom. That's incredible. Wow, that is so incredible. It's not funny. And I'm more passionate about it than most because I lost my freedom. Yeah, I made mistakes. It could have been different. But I just couldn't believe you could have this little altercation and not just sort it out. No, they wanted to make a point. And they didn't want me mentioning certain issues about Israel. Well, there you go. So I'm begging people, you've got to focus on the military. There is no point going to your Facebook page. Go and look up Richard Ojeda or Ojeda, Richard Ojeda, the Democrat guy, old school Democrat, old school Union. You may not like that, but the point is, he's honest. He was a major in the US Army. He's perfect so far. I think he's might have even hooked up with that guy who wants to pay everyone the universal wage, Yang. I don't know. But for God's sake, get the information to him. A friend of mine got it to him in an email exchange, but we don't know what happened. That guy was beaten up, nearly bashed to death. Richard Ojeda, look him up, please. I'll put a link in below and pin it to the top. But there you go. So Intel's finished. They're trying to bring down the United States. They may be doing multiple programs to do that because they want parity. They don't want a dominant US dollar. They want all the currencies linked in with the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland. They want the tokens to be on parity. They have to be on parity. You can't have a super powerful US dollar. So they've got to bring the US down. They've got to do it. I don't believe they're going to do it. But we will see, won't we? We will see. How dare you? I could talk about Greta Thunberg. My God. If ever there was a psyop, I mean, she's a psyop to make you hate her. If you were really going to have a female do this, you would have maybe slightly blonde hair, Eurasian appearance, or have 2 or 3 of them form a group, a spontaneous group of 16-year-old schoolgirls, sweet, slightly demure. Please save the polar bears. Not this freaking Nazi goose-step and whack job. No, I don't even want to be nasty to her. She's being used. She's a kid, 16 years old. But then, you know, sweetheart, if you want to jump in on the public, well, you're gonna get shot at. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Shame on your fucking parents. But apparently, the father said she was so messed up and so mentally ill and depressed and suffering from that this has lifted her spirit. So he's all for it. Oh, great. Anyway, Vladislav Surkov at work. Who knows what's real, what's not. Anyway, good luck. That was my little intel thing. Please look into it more. I'll put some links and I'll pin them to the top after I've had some breakfast or as I'm having breakfast. And I'm signing off. Hope it all works. And ciao for now. Hold up first, jumper leggy and jumper nanty. Now, how the hell do I switch it off? Where the hell is the button? Yeah, the cloud. I mean, they're building that AI supercomputer in the cloud. So you'll have a little terminal. You'll just have a little terminal. It won't have much computing power, and you'll have a screen. And all the computing power will be done by the servers. That's why they need the 5G and the optic fiber. They need really fast internet connections. That's what they're doing. It's all about the AI. Everything they're doing, right? They don't hate each other. They're working together at the top, and they bring those robots and drones and smart cities, and they're going to f*** all of us. They're going to f*** Jews. They're going to f*** Muslims. They're going to f*** Christians. They're going to f*** communists. All the dickhead, useful idiots, and that's all of us, are going to get f***. And that includes the managerial class in the Pentagon, in the intelligence community. They have mortgages, they have kids, they have the same worries. They are your friends. The Google staff who let my videos get up to 250,000 views. Do you understand the thought that there's an all-encompassing conspiracy run by Satan himself with his demonic pedophile hordes, when really it is a few thousand people at the top, at most, and a bunch of dumb people getting fed a narrative about the perfect world to come and what they're really going to do. I love technology, and I love the idea of a smart city that's fuel efficient and electric and no smog and has fruit growing off. You know, you can just pluck some fruit out of a drip-fed, you know, oh, that's a great idea. I'm all for it. But I want it under my control. I want to have a say. And this is bad. This is really, really bad. And what's annoying to me, what's frustrating me personally, is it's so easy to fix. Focus on the United States. Only the United States can stop this. The United States must be dissolved of this foul, disgusting, communist, call it what you want, Rothschild, communist, banker influence, internationalist, Trotskyite, political Zionist movement. That's what it is. All working together to smash up the whole world. So now everyone hates America, and China's going to save the world with Russia. And Putin's the great statesman coming out with these great statesman-like speeches. And these are ruthless piece of shit who carpet bombed Syria. They didn't even use laser-guided bombs. They were getting rid of their old cluster bomb and general-purpose explosives just to get rid of their old stock. They destroyed Syria. Syria was flattened. Christopher Berlin. Putin saved Syria. Saved it. Do you know Syria is 80% Sunni? They don't want to be ruled by a tiny Alawite minority. Anyway, that's another story. Syria's been cooperating with Israel since forever. No. Iran's been cooperating with doing deals with Israel non-stop, and they're even worse now under Rouhani and Zarif. So come on. Let's get some analysis. Let's get some solutions. Let's just see a few people, for God's sake. Just give me some hope. Give me some hope that one American can go and stand outside Fort Bragg and hand out a freaking flyer. Israel has sold us out to China. Look what Jeremy Rothschild and Greg McCarran did. Look what they did. You don't have to ambush the Dems on this issue as brilliantly as they did. That will go down in history. Just somebody standing out. I remember in the past, 2008, 2007, people were on the streets everywhere doing this stuff, and there's not a soul. How is that possible? Well, we know how. Thank you, Vladislav Surkov. Thank you to incredible psychological warfare and a bunch of idiots who now equate Muslim terrorism run by Israel, planted by Israel, funded by Israel and the City of London network. Come on, we've got all the links we need. We know what's going on. How do we turn this into actionable intelligence and put it out in the grassroots and start? Don't look to the left and don't look to the right thinking, well, someone else will do it. No, no one else is going to do it. You're going to have to fucking do it. All right? Catch you later. Have a good day.